I'm still moving. That is a house cleaning jam, Omar. It most definitely is. Okay, so happy Saturday, y'all. Saturday mornings, because during the week I just be feeling like I be rushing people because a girl got a 9 to 5, I got to clock in. So I was like, okay, well, I can ask people that inspire me to come up on a Saturday. Maybe they're not working and we don't have to rush the conversation. So with that being said, I have the OG of OGs about to come up and share some tips with us, share her story, share her journey. Morning, Janelle, with us. This morning is a treat that I have for you guys, okay? Morning, Danielle. Um, Tackling Tara is about to join Team TMI for the first time. I want everyone to give her a round of applause, because if it was not for this lady, none of us would be on this, because she was one of the people that went through the clinical trials back in 2020 for us to be able to get this medication. So I want you all to say, good morning. And she's
Good
walking with us, guys.
morning.
What time is it on your coast?
I'm on the East Coast, so it's 8 a.m. I'm
Oh,
in
okay.
Florida.
You're in Florida. I don't know why I thought you was in California.
No, never been to
I
California.
Really?
No.
Okay, well, good morning, good morning. So
Good
I like to do a
morning.
little music just because I like to dance, and I feel like that wakes people up and get them ready for their day. Whether you're taking your kid to soccer or cleaning the house, I like a little music in the morning.
You can't go wrong with music, in my opinion.
Welcome, 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 welcome to Team TMI and Let Your Light Shine. I want to tackle all the things, right? Because normally when I start, I always want to know, was it you that had the conversation with your doctor, or did your doctor bring it to you after like a physical or something like that? How did the journey start?
Well, so because my journey started with a clinical trial, that was something I learned about on my own. But I can
Okay.
tell you that I had a primary care for at least 10 years who was very frustrated with me in the nicest way possible.
Right.
He really is a great doctor. In fact, I had left, but I've gone back just because distance. He wasn't convenient anymore, but
Okay.
he really was a great doctor. But we would do my blood work every year, and my blood pressure was great, all of my numbers were great, and not that he was hoping for something to be wrong with me, but like everybody else, he thought I needed something to shake me up, to finally
Okay.
say, like, okay, I'm going to lose the weight. I'm going to, he would tell me your knees aren't going to hold out forever. One day you're going to end up with
Right.
diabetes. One day your blood pressure is going to be high. So, it was that kind of conversation all the time. Now, he tried lots of things with me. Xenical, I don't know if you remember that or ever heard of that. It was a weight loss
Mm-mm.
pill. Yeah, it was a weight loss pill years ago that basically upset your stomach if you ate things that were like fatty or heavy. And
Um,
I guess
them-
the thought process was you wouldn't want to keep doing that if it upset your stomach.
right.
So I tried that. I did Weight Watchers for the first time at 13 years old.
Mm.
Everything in between. I did the phentermine and B12 shots when that was a thing, and I tried it all. So again, my doctor was always on me about my weight, but he also knew that I lived a pretty active lifestyle. My daughter right now is 24. My son is 14. I have a
Okay.
2-year-old granddaughter, and
Oh.
you have my son plays sports. So, like, normally today, I'm usually packing up for basketball, but
Okay.
the years before it was football. So we'd be out all day
Okay.
long. Anyway, so I'm kind of getting off the topic here. But
No, 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 you're fine.
as far as getting on the medication, that was really just in 2018, I lost my oldest sister to obesity.
Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
yeah, and that was hard because again, people look at something like that and say, well, that's got to be an eye opener, right? Well, that's got to
Right.
be the thing that will make her change. But I had tried all the things to make me change before. But it just so happened that about a year and a half later, it was COVID, and I'm driving
Okay.
home from work one day. I hear on the radio about an advertisement for a clinical trial for a weight loss medication. I don't, that's all they tell you. You don't know anything else. I hear about it on the radio and I'm thinking, wow, maybe I should look into that. But I never
Okay.
thought about it again. All of a sudden, one day, my husband comes home and tells me, hey, I'm going to be in a clinical trial for weight loss medication. I'm like, what? And I said, I want to do that. I said, where did you hear about it? He's like, oh, I heard about it on the radio. I was like, dang. And I said, well,
What?
shoot. Yeah, I'm like, well, shoot, I need to call. Well, I called and all the spots were full. And I
No.
was like, yes, I was like, oh my God, now what? So I was
Right.
I was down, but again, not that down because I didn't know really anything about the medication or if it would even work or what have you. He starts the
Right.
process of getting approved. They do blood work. At this time, it wasn't known as Manjaro yet. It was, just tirzepatide. It had
Okay.
already been approved for diabetes. So they had already tried it for, done clinical trials for diabetics. Now they were
Okay.
specifically trying it for weight loss. So they didn't want people in the trial who were diabetic. Well,
Okay.
funny thing is, we didn't know my husband was diabetic until he started this process. So he goes through
Really?
he goes through, and again, mind you, this is the beginning of COVID. So no doctors were taking people, I mean, it was crazy.
So
So he
wait,
finds out,
before then, was he going like to get physicals every year and get blood work? He
nope,
wasn't. Okay.
nope.
Okay.
And so, I my faith is like number one in my life.
Right.
And I
Absolutely.
believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Lord led me to this. I mean, everything, I
Right.
get goosebumps when I even think about it because everything, the way this lined up was just insane. So he finds out he's diabetic and
Okay.
that kicks him out of the trial. So I called the very next day about getting a
Like a
spot.
spot opened up.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
like, I'm sorry for you, honey, but we'll deal with this.
Yes.
But I'm like, but I
I
got to
need
do
this.
this.
Right.
So I called the next day, and the nutritionist that was running the program was like, she said, I have a really long wait list. Like, could you get here tomorrow morning? I said, lady, I will be on your doorstep when you open. So she was like, okay. So literally the next day I was there at 8 a.m., started the process, was approved because luckily for me, I wasn't diabetic or anything like that yet.
Okay.
But my trial was a randomized trial. So I had only a 25% chance of getting the medication. The other 75% received a placebo. So,
Really?
yep. So when I first started, I, they again, they didn't know that much about it.
Right.
And she was like, well, you'll know if you got the medication or not. And I'm like, well, how will I know? She said, well, you're going to feel like you just ate Thanksgiving dinner. So I was like, okay. So
Mm.
day one goes by, I don't feel anything. Day two goes by, I don't feel anything. And of course, I'm like, God bless, I didn't get the medication.
Right.
And my husband's like, well, just give it time. And I said, no, this lady told me I'm gonna feel full, and I don't feel like that. Well, day three, I'm at work, and I'm sitting at I run an insurance agency, and I'm
Okay.
sitting there at my desk, and I look at my watch and clock, and I'm like, it's like 11 o'clock. And I'm like, I didn't have breakfast yet this morning. And then I like it literally, I was like, wait, I have not thought about food at all today. Like, at all. I'm not hungry. I'm not thinking. And I literally sprung up out of my chair and was like, oh my God, I got the medication. And
Right.
my office was like,
25% chance.
yes, yes. And then even on top of that, I mean, they didn't, there was no hyper responder at that point. They didn't know anything about being a hyper responder.
Right.
But I guess, I'm considered a hyper responder. But even that,
Okay.
there's people that struggle to only lose a couple pounds here and there. Their body is dealing with so many other things. I lost 20
Right.
pounds in the first month, 70 pounds by
Wow.
6 months. And
Yeah, that's
actually,
hyper.
as of this morning, I'm now down 214 pounds.
What?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I
Thank
need to
you.
hear all the things. I need to hear because looking at your before picture, you'll be like, I kind of see Tara in there. Like, but it's just a completely different person. Do you feel like a completely different person?
Yes and no. I mean,
Okay.
I know that, not everybody knows that um, one of the things that I had the opportunity to do was to be on the Tamron Hall show, which to me was just, I'm like, I'm just a
I
boring,
saw
average
that.
person. I'm like, why is anybody interested in me? But she really started touching on this before any of these other talk show hosts and celebrities and stuff like that really was diving into it.
Okay.
And she sat there with me and she had a before picture of me up on the screen, and she looked at the picture and she looked at me and she said, you know that I look at that picture and I look at you, and she says that's the same person. But she was asking me really how differently people were treating me now. But
Right.
it really choked me up, because in my heart and in my head, I am still that same person. I've always been a
Right.
kind person. I'm a giving
Right.
person. But so many people never gave me the time of day before.
Right.
So that's
That
hard. That's
part.
really hard to deal with, because it's like, why am I worthy of your kindness and your
And I
friendship
wasn't
now, but I
before.
wasn't before?
Right.
So that's
Right.
been a struggle, honestly, to try to navigate that. But in general, I feel the best I've ever felt in my life, because I weigh less now. Just turned 49 this month. I weigh less now than I did when I was 9 years old.
Mm.
So to say that
What?
yes, I have been on this struggle bus for 40 years. And
Wow.
to finally be able to, even doing this, like, I mean, again, I was active before, but my
Mhm.
butt never would have been out at 8 a.m. walking. I would have had to say, Let, we got to do this at like maybe noon, okay? But
Well, I
it's
appreciate it. I definitely
no
appreciate it.
problem. It's my
And happy
pleasure.
belated birthday.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
how is that like? How are you dealing with that mentally? Being this size at this age, do you look at it like divine? Because I always look at things in divine timing, right?
Hmm.
Because I feel like if I had been in a smaller body at a younger age, I may not have been able to deal with all the things that comes along with that, right? Sometimes I feel like me being overweight younger was protection from things
Yeah.
because mentally I just wasn't strong enough to deal with all the things that you hear some other people go through. Not to say that that would have been what I went through, but I'm just looking at me now mentally. How are you dealing with that?
That's been a bit of a struggle too, because one of the things that my weight, um, my body battled because of my weight, was infertility. And I always wanted, at least 3 or 4 children. And there was never anything wrong with me per se, but I don't want to say I only have, because I'm extremely blessed to have my daughter, who I had biologically, but she was my one and only pregnancy, and that was very depressing as a young woman, as a young wife, feeling like I was a failure. Like, there's all these, like, my two of my sisters, their husbands could walk past them and whoop, they were having another baby, and I'm like,
Right.
why not me? What is wrong with me? And
Right.
so that, I struggled with that for a really long time. And the Lord blessed me again. It was divine order the way it happened, but the
Right.
Lord blessed me with a son that we adopted from birth locally here in Florida.
Oh.
And he is the absolute light of my life. Sweetest, kindest, most compassionate kid you have ever met in your life. Would never say a negative thing about anybody. He's never met a peer who just didn't love him, but he doesn't even realize it. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's all, everything good is inside of this
Right.
boy, and he was just
Oh.
for me. He was made for me. But
I love that.
at the same time, it's, as a woman, I think we put a lot on ourselves about what we're
Yes, we
supposed to
do.
do, what we're supposed to look like, all the things. We're supposed to be a mom and a housewife. We're supposed to have a career. We're supposed to,
Hmm.
have 10 children. We're supposed to do all these things. And when your body doesn't let you do those things, you feel like a failure, And I felt like
Right.
over and over in my life, I felt like a failure. And
Right.
now, I feel success, I feel victory, I feel better than I've ever felt. But one thing I did struggle with in the beginning of this journey, when I saw that all these women were now becoming pregnant, um, I mean, I hate to say jealous. I don't mean jealous, but
Right.
it certainly did strike me like, man, if only this would have come out 10 years or maybe even 15 or 20 years earlier,
Right.
maybe that could be me. I am elated for the women that this is happening for, and I'm so excited that this is even something that is a side effect, if you will, of the medication. But at the same time,
Right.
for me, it was a little heartbreaking to know that, wow, there's something out there that might have helped me. But at the same time, again, I rely on my faith, and I believe that my son was meant for me. My daughter, I'm lucky that I had the one, healthy pregnancy. And,
Hmm.
I mean, my family is perfect just the way it is. But,
I
you can't
love
help but
that.
sometimes look back, and
Right.
wonder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can definitely relate. I was married for over 20 years, and my daughter, who's now 15, is my rainbow baby. She
Oh,
is my rainbow baby. And, after having her, I wanted to have more, but it was just, life happens, circumstances, all of those. So I definitely understand with that, with what you went through. Now, I want to kind of shift gears a little bit because I know that you are led by your faith. But do you practice with that mindfulness? Do you do yoga or Pilates or meditation or journaling? Because I feel like all of that is a little bit of mindfulness.
absolutely. I don't personally. And honestly, it's not for a lack of wanting to do those things. Part of my journey led me to being diagnosed with ADHD at 40, 47, 48 years old, something I knew I had, or at least
Right.
suspected I had most of my life. But again, and when I was younger, especially with my father, but in general, that wasn't something that people really explored or even talked about.
Right.
So, I went all those years without ever knowing. And again, thinking that I couldn't do something or that I failed at something.
Okay.
So this journey as a whole has kind of brought about so much realization and clarity You know, I should do more of those things, honestly, because it's good for your mental health. It's good for your spiritual health. It's just good for you in general. But I just kind of struggle with focusing on, you know, any one thing for too long. So that
Okay.
hasn't been
No,
a part of
no.
my journey.
Okay. Um, so what about like when you were in the trials? Did they make you or ask you to document everything? Like, are you one of those, I need the information. I need to know. I'm sure they were watching you closely, but for your own self, did you write anything down?
I really didn't. I did take pictures along the way, like pretty much.
Okay.
I want to say when I had probably gotten to either like 40 or 50 pounds, I started taking and doing side by side pictures every 10 pounds
Okay.
because I really wanted, you know, I hear a lot of people say this, and for me, it was the same. You don't see it the way other people see it, you know?
Right. Not at all.
You look at yourself and you're like, oh, I look the same, you know, until one day you don't. But going back and having those pictures to be able to go back to and say like, wow, I really see it there. I really see it there. Really helped me. The clinical trial, the research center, they kept a lot of data, you know,
Okay.
obviously, but, and
Right.
they would give me like, they would take measurements, they would like all of that stuff. But I didn't know, and they couldn't tell me. I didn't know what dose I was on at any given time. I don't know.
Oh.
I know they titrated us up and we did go up to 15, but I don't
Okay.
know like how long I was on one specific dose, or at least during the 18-month trial. So it was kind
Mm.
of, for me, there was kind of no point really in keeping too much data because there was so much unknown.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I could say, well, like I said, in 6 months I lost 70 pounds, but in 6 months I don't know, what dose was I on? How long was I on it? I don't have any idea.
And that's not something that you could get from them. You don't think that they would share that information with you after it was over?
Well, I actually did reach out to them recently because
Is it okay?
what I thought in my mind, I actually thought the trial started us at 2.5 and titrated us up to 15. But one of the people I was on here with, I think her name is AZ Cat Lady.
Hmm.
She actually did some research on the trial that I was in, and she said
Okay.
from what it looks like that they started us at 5, we went to 10, and then went to 15. So I was
Really?
like, yeah, so I was like, and I really would like to know that information. I haven't heard back from them yet, and I don't know if I will. I don't know if they'll provide that information or not, but I'm definitely trying to get it because I'm really
Okay.
interested now in knowing more.
What you were on.
Yeah. And
Now,
kind of,
did
because
they have you? Go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
I
I'm
was just
sorry.
saying, I know a lot of people ask, like, well, how much did you lose on this particular dose? And I don't know any of that.
Right. And you want to. You want
Yeah,
to be able to answer those questions. Now, when you
exactly.
were in the trials, did they have you do the injections in the same places that they recommend for us to do them now? Has it
The
always been the
only
same?
the only place they, I guess technically would allow us to do them was in the stomach, but we alternated
Oh,
around. So we, you know, you do like, it was about 2 inches from your belly button. So you would do like top left, bottom right, top right, and just every, you know, every time rotate kind of around. But
okay.
we didn't even have the option, or even nobody talked about your thigh, your arm, anything like that.
Really? Okay.
Nope.
So did they encourage you to do any exercises or go for walks while you were in the trials?
They did, and that's another thing. So I see people say, well, during the trial, they were only allowed to eat this many calories and they had to do this much movement. That, I mean, at least in mine, that was not true. We worked with a nutritionist, which I think was a huge help. But she just gave suggestions. You know what I mean? She told
Hmm.
me that she said, I'm not telling you what exercise to do, but as soon as you feel like you can, you need to start moving your body, whether it's walking, whether it, simple stuff, wall
Right.
push-ups, anything. She said, anything is better than nothing, and start moving your body. And so I did that, as soon as in the beginning,
Mm.
I think I see a lot of people do this. They're like, well, I'm eating the same as I was. I'm just eating less of it. And in the first couple months, I would say I probably did that. The first month, I would say I
Okay.
probably did that again because it was new. I didn't know really what was going to happen, what to expect. But the moment I saw that, I'm like, this is working, was the moment I wanted to do more. The moment
Okay.
I wanted to change up my eating, the moment I wanted to start exercising. And I never got crazy with the exercise. I still don't.
Okay.
But I would go for a bike ride. I would go for a walk. I started doing squats you were drinking all this water, so I was going to the restroom 10 times a day.
Right.
I would do 25 squats when I went into the bathroom to pee. So all of that stuff really started making a difference, honestly. And I
Okay.
didn't really think that it would. But you're back to your question. We weren't, it wasn't part of it. We didn't have to do any of those things, but they certainly did encourage us to, limit fried and fatty foods,
Okay.
stay away from sodas and sugars. And it wasn't like don't eat carbs. It wasn't like don't eat this. There was
Okay.
never anything they said, you can't have this. That's one of my
Okay.
favorite questions that people ask me. Well, what can you eat? I said, I can eat whatever I want.
Right.
you know, for me,
Okay.
for me, I reduced carbs. I never counted anything. I never ever counted a thing. I could give you
Okay.
a roundabout, at that particular time of about how many calories I was eating and things like that, but never counted them. But I did reduce
Okay.
carbs. I did pretty much eliminate anything fried, fatty, because it didn't make me feel good, honestly. Now,
Right.
I don't know about you, but if I eat those things now, I don't feel great.
What
Um,
were some of the
no,
side
no, go
effects
ahead.
that you experienced?
So, really, the only thing in all this time that was a constant for me was, of course, the constipation, which I've always managed either with something like Miralax or, well, one thing about being on the trial is this community did not exist. So I
Right.
knew nothing about Mago 7, digestive enzymes, Greens, like all
Right.
the things that
Right.
we've learned about through
Yes.
TikTok. I knew nothing about, and there was nobody to ask. So mine was a super lonely journey, if I'm being honest.
Mm.
But I was very lucky with side effects because, like I said, I definitely dealt with the constipation. Um,
Okay.
I had, again, I can't confirm what dose it was on. I'm going to guess it was 10.
Okay.
I did have the sulfur burps, which I don't know if you've ever had
Oh
them, but
gosh, they are
uh,
terrible.
my
I did.
husband my husband didn't want to ride in the car with me.
The car,
Um,
I would sleep on the sofa just so he wouldn't have to smell them because they were disgusting to me.
oh yes, that's what I thought. I'm like, oh my God, if this is this bad to me, I can't imagine what it's like for anybody
Right.
else. Oh, it was terrible. But
They were terrible.
I also dealt with 2 weeks about of diarrhea. Um,
Mm.
but one other thing that I did end up with was for about a week straight. I literally had a splitting migraine headache, and
Mm.
I was, we're supposed to report anything to the research center, and they were like,
Right.
yeah, that's not really a known side effect. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, you're supposed to be collecting this data.
You're right.
And now it is, now it is one of
It
the
most
potential side
definitely
effects.
is.
And it was a week. I mean, nothing would touch it for a solid week. But other than that, like I never ever once vomited, not one time on this medication. I
Really.
don't know, and that I can think of, I've never felt fatigued on the medication.
Oh wow.
trying to think of some of the other things that I know people deal with.
Now,
Yeah, I mean,
so yeah, the nausea, the migraines, the
I did have
headaches, the
nausea.
you
I
did?
did
Okay.
even still sometimes like the day after shot day. But
Okay.
again, it's just more like a, kind of a doesn't feel great, but never enough to make me sick or anything like that. I was super, super lucky in that department.
Do you feel like you could feel when they were titrating you up? Do you feel like you would be able to tell the difference?
Yeah, I would definitely say yes.
Okay.
My I had pretty good appetite suppression and reduction in food noise. Like day 3, I had the reduction in food noise on whatever dose I started with, whether it was 2.5 or 5. But every time I titrated, and even now, if I switch up my dose, I definitely can tell a difference, good and bad. So as far as like, I was going to reduce I've been maintaining on 10 milligrams weekly. And recently I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go down to 7.5 and just see if that'll do it. I was starving. I'm not talking like, oh, I'm a little hungry. We should be hungry. It's normal for your body to be hungry.
Right.
I was like starving. And I'm like, this is not normal. I'm eating, So
Right.
this week when I did my dose, I went back to the 10 milligrams and I haven't felt like that. But I definitely could tell, and still can, a difference from one dose to the next.
Okay. Now tell me, hold on. Tell me when you were coming off, when you were done with the clinical trials, what happened when it was done and over, and when did that happen?
So the trial was 18 months long,
Okay.
and the medication really can give you a false sense of security, I think,
In what
especially
way?
if in the way that you get used to the food noise being gone, you get used to the satiety, most of us develop new and better habits. And then, you kind of start to think, like, I was very nervous about coming off, but at the same time, I'm like, well, you know what? I've been doing this for almost 18 months now. I've learned so many things. I got this, like, no problem. I can do this. And I continued to do all the things after the trial ended. And I wasn't even under 200 pounds yet. So I wasn't at my goal. I lost, I think,
Okay.
132 pounds in the 18 months on the trial, which was amazing.
Wow.
But I
Yes.
still had a ways to go. And I was really confident that I would continue. So I kept eating good. I kept up the exercise. The food noise did return. And did I succumb to that sometimes? Sure. But nothing like I used to, nothing like,
Okay.
you know, just the overeating and the, binging and things like that. And in that year before the medication became available after my trial ended, still actively trying to lose weight, I gained about 18 pounds,
That's
which,
not bad though.
no,
That
no, it's not. But what bothered me about it is that I was still actively trying to lose. If I had just
okay.
stopped the medication and I was like, you know what, I'll just maintain here, and I gain 18 pounds, that's not a lot in a year. It's not even 2 pounds a month. But what
Right.
scared me about it was that I was still doing all of the other things that everyone said I should have been doing my whole life, and it wasn't working. And that, I think, was the realization for me that this medication is touching on so many other things.
Absolutely. I feel like the weight loss is like at the end of the spectrum because you get so many more benefits
Yep.
mentally, physically, especially with the inflammation being gone. My lower back and my knees don't hurt anymore.
Yeah, I had trouble with my sciatic nerve for years.
Mm.
I have plantar fasciitis in my right heel. I mean, there were times that I would walk And you're figuring you're carrying 300. At my heaviest, I was almost 400 pounds. So you're thinking you're carrying a lot of weight on these two little
Right.
feet, right? I have not had pain with the plantar fasciitis ever since. I have not had an issue with my sciatic nerve ever since. I used to be on Prozac for depression. I don't take that anymore. I haven't since I began the medication 4.5 years ago. I feel like I just have a clarity in general that I didn't
Right.
have before. And I'm more
Right.
aware of my own body now even than I was before, which is kind of a strange sensation,
It
because
is.
before I
It
before I
is.
think, especially when you're, not to take anything away from someone who wants to lose 30 or 40 pounds, but I think when you are morbidly obese, you start to just accept that it's just normal that this hurts or that hurts. It's just normal to feel this way or that way. It's
Right.
normal to not have energy. We kind of accept that.
Right.
Now I'm like, shoot, I not only do I not have that, I don't have to accept it. I can say no. I'm not accepting any of that, and I'm going to do something about it with the medication that allows me to do something about it.
Absolutely. But I also feel like that is just not in that realm. That is in all aspects, right? Because now you feel more confident to say no to people and
Oh
to
yeah,
set boundaries, not just with yourself, with the people that are around you. Like, look, we're not doing that no more.
absolutely. I'm the youngest of 10 children, and I was teased by my siblings for my weight. I was, bullied at school. I still, to this day, at almost 50 years old, still carry the trauma from a boy who bullied me in middle school, to the point where, like, I live in the same town I grew up in, and he lives in the town we grew up in. Like, he's a manager for a major grocery store chain here, and I try to avoid the stores that he might be at all
Oh,
these years
wow.
later, and that, like,
Yeah.
that was really traumatic for me,
Right.
because I mean, to the point where, like, I would walk totally out of my way to not have to pass this person in the hallway on my way to class. And it's like, I don't accept that from people now. But
Right.
one thing the medication also has done, not the medication, the journey, I think it really brought up a lot of other things that I either was able to deal with or still have to deal with.
Right. Right. It's because like we haven't healed from those things that happened to us when we were children, and that is a part of the journey, having to face things, because before we would go to food, where
Yep.
we don't have that now, and you have to definitely deal with these things head on. um so I want to ask, so there was a time period, was it a year you said, from the time that the trial ended before the medication came out? When it did come out,
Yes.
what brand, what dose did you choose to start on to continue with your journey?
So I went with Manjaro, and
Okay.
I started at 2.5 because it had been so long since I'd been on the medication.
Oh, okay.
That's where I had to start, and that's where I would have wanted to start, honestly. But I will tell you a mistake that I made. And it's funny because I think all of us on this journey that have been on it for any length of time, we all have advice that we give to people, when they ask us, sometimes even when they don't ask us. But
Right.
I think it's hard for us sometimes to take our own advice. So,
Most definitely.
one thing most of us will tell people is, don't increase your dose too quickly. And that was something that I really made the mistake of, 2022, when this medication came out, because I'm like, I was so relieved to have access to it again,
Right.
that I was like, oh, and wanted not only to lose the, 18 or so pounds I had gained, but also to continue to lose more, get in Wonderland and all that stuff. that I was like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, literally every month, I was like, all right, 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10. Next thing I
Right.
knew, I was on 12.5, and I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm still not at goal, and all I have left
Mm-hmm.
is 15.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, well, gosh, what happens if I get to 15 and now nothing's happening? So
Yep.
one thing that I've done a few times in my journey, and it's something that I have suggested, I always tell people, listen, I'm not a doctor, talk to your doctor, but this worked
Right.
for me. Right then and there, I stopped the medication for 6 to 8 weeks. And I have done that several times throughout this second part of my journey.
Really?
Gave my body a full reset, started back at 2.5. Every time I have done that, the weight loss has started again.
Really?
Yes. And now I have not gone above 10 in, I'd say, at least a year. At least.
What?
Yep. And I'm still losing, not a lot, but I still lose a pound here, a half a pound there, even in maintenance.
Oh, wow. Okay. So how long have you been in maintenance?
That's a good question. I would say at least 6 months, but I actually need to figure that out. But at least 6 months.
Okay. But so in between your resets, are you gaining or you maintaining?
I gained each time about 5 to 8 pounds, which
Okay.
I was totally okay with because again, I knew that, listen, the inflammation is coming back, the PCOS symptoms are coming back. I can deal with that. And I just, at that point, I was confident because I'd done it enough times to know that, all right,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, this is just what my body needs to do to get back to kind of the beginning and start over, start fresh. And every time that 5 or 8 pounds came off within the first week or two, and then I was right back to losing.
Okay. Now, are you on? You said you're on Mount Jaro. So you're
I
not on
was
compound.
I was on Manjaro then because I see one of the questions here. My
Mm-hmm.
insurance never covered it, never has, and God only knows if it ever will. But so I had the $25 coupon. So that was another. I think that was another reason why I was like, oh, I gotta go up because I just like I didn't want to lose that, and I wanted to. So I had access to the $25 coupon for the entire time that it was available, and
Oh,
then
okay.
yeah, then my doctor did start prescribing it. But even at the rate that you pay, like if you have insurance, you paid a reduced rate, 500 and something
Right.
dollars a month. I'm like, nah, I can't do that. I'm gonna
Right.
get a second job. Like what am I gonna do? But at that point, then that's when I switched to compound. And honestly, compound, and I'll say this to be totally transparent. I am an affiliate with a telehealth company, but
Okay.
I was not with this company when I started. And
Okay.
compound is how I got to goal. So
Okay.
I was kind of stalling out, honestly, on when I was on brand, losing still, but just a little bit here and there. And it's like compound seemed to just kind of, I don't know, kick it up a notch for me.
Right. And I've been feeling that as well. Abby has a question. She said, "You being off a year, getting back on, did it help build confidence when doing resets?"
Absolutely, absolutely. Because like I said, when I came off that trial, I had some false confidence, right? Because I'd been
Right.
doing all the right things, but I'd been doing all the right things how many times in my life, and it didn't work then.
Right.
But I thought that I had finally, okay, I've got the key here, right?
Right.
So that, of course, that was scary, but each time, just trusting the process because I knew it worked, made it a little less scary and a little less scary to the point where I'm like, all right, I mean, if I gain 5, 6, 10 pounds even, I'll be able to take it off when I restart the medication.
Okay.
But I know that's
Um,
hard. I know that's hard because everyone I talk to is scared to death to do that, you know?
Yes. Because I'm like, the
I
food
understand
noise,
that.
I'm going to gain 40 pounds. Like sometimes when it's day 5 or 6, I'm like in the cabinets wanting all the snacks, all the things. So a week, 2 weeks, a month, I just can't even imagine.
Well, I will tell you, if there was one, if I could tell you, like if you said, what's the one thing that you did to help you in your journey? For me, I would say it was being prepared and meal prepping. So
Okay.
I am never, ever anywhere without something that I can eat. My husband and I on a Saturday will go get in the car and, you know, we're going to run to IKEA that's an hour and a half away. I pack a
Okay.
lunchbox. I have
Really?
yes, ma'am. If I go to somebody's house, I bring a lunchbox. When I go to work every, Monday through Friday, my lunch is already, my breakfast, my lunch, my dinner, and my snacks are planned out for the entire week.
Oh,
And that
wow.
has helped me. I always have a salty snack, a savory snack, a sweet snack. I make protein puddings. I've been, experimenting. I just made the best cottage cheese banana bread. And my husband, who hates,
These cottage
uh,
cheese people. I
well,
am not a
listen,
cottage cheese fan.
me either.
Sorry.
Like, I cannot take a spoon of that and like even get it to my mouth. I'm like, no, but I can use it.
Right.
I can use it in things.
Okay.
And never would have
Okay.
done that before. Never, ever. But I'm telling you, I tried so many new things. Spaghetti squash. I haven't had regular spaghetti in at least 2, 3 years. And spaghetti
Really?
squash, that was something like, no, no, thank you.
Right. No,
But
thank you.
I'm telling you, I put some meat sauce on that, and oh my God, it is like, I look forward to it. So I've gotten to the point where, before, I think part of the diet culture is, oh, I'm going to eat rice cakes for the rest of my life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
plain at that, not even the ranch
Plain.
flavor, you
Right.
know? I'm going to eat cardboard. I'm going to eat cottage cheese. I'm going to eat all this
Right.
crap that's disgusting. We deprived ourselves. We thought we had to do that. You know, this journey has helped me to realize I don't have to deprive myself. I
Right.
can enjoy food still. I can enjoy treats, chips, cookies, crackers. I just have to be smarter about it. So
Right.
for me, that part was actually very empowering because, like I said, I always thought, like, oh, I'm going on a diet. Like, oh, gross,
Having the control, you mean, was
Yes,
empowering. Having the
yes. Oh,
control. Right.
absolutely. And
Right.
my staff at work, they smell the things I'm heating up and they see what I'm eating. A lot of them are eating some of the same things and they're not trying to lose weight. They're like, man, that looks amazing. One of my employees has since gotten on Manjaro. She's lost almost 80 pounds and she looks
What?
amazing. Yes, she looks in 7 months.
Oh, another I feel like those are hyper. You
Yes,
guys are hyper.
yes,
So they
yes,
want
for
to know in
sure.
the comments, they want to know who you're with and what pharmacy you get your meds from.
Okay, so I am an affiliate with Amble, and so where your medication comes from depends on where you live in the country. Mine comes from Hillendale, but we also use Red Rock. We use Reprieve, and
Okay.
I'd have to look it up, but I can't remember the fourth one off the top of my head. But they are all, the 503A or B. Is it 501? I'm totally drawing a blank.
503A.
I'm not up moving
It's
my body this early
503A.
usually.
That's okay.
they're 503A or B pharmacies, that we use only. And I can tell again, I'm not trying to promote anything, but last Saturday I ordered my refill and on Tuesday it was on my doorstep. After ordering it on a
Really?
Saturday. So you figure Saturday and Sunday are like, forget those days. Basically 2 business days it was on my doorstep.
What?
Yes. And,
Okay.
they lowered their prices recently. I know a lot of the telehealths are, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
I love all the choices that we have because, again, I
Yes.
feel like that's not something we had before. We didn't have a lot of choices in a weight loss journey, period. And now there are so many
Right.
options for us. I love that. So I don't care who people
Okay.
use. I just want somebody
Right.
to do their research because I know where I live here in, near Tampa, I see advertisements all the time for a med spa. Oh, come get your injection for $20. I'm like, you can't make it for $20. So what are you giving these
Right.
people?
So I want to know, we talked about mindfulness and your faith and your journey. What's next for Tara?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, joining the TikTok community was kind of a big step for me because I'm not like really one of these put yourself. It's kind of twofold because I'm very outgoing. Talked my whole life, but I don't necessarily like to talk about myself.
Right.
So, when people on here, when I joined the community and, just started interacting with people and then, they start asking you just questions in general, like, hey, how did you start? Blah, blah, and I start telling people, well, I was a clinical, it was like, oh my God, somebody told me, oh, you're a unicorn. Like you need to share. And I'm like,
Yes.
I don't think I'm that interesting. Like what, and I'm not one of these people that are like, oh, I did this and look at me and I'm so great. I'm not like that. But at the same time, God gave me a servant's heart and I always want to help people. So it was a lot of balancing between helping and coming across, at least in my own eyes, like I was promoting myself or,
Right.
like look at me. Cause that is not me. I mean,
Okay. So you didn't feel
I've done,
comfortable in that, like,
I didn't
because
feel
that wasn't your
deserving.
intent. Right.
Yeah. I didn't
Okay.
feel worthy or deserving of that because I didn't feel like it's me who should be getting the attention. It's the medication. It's the journey.
Right.
It's the whole thing, So
Right.
that's been a struggle for me. But, and I, being totally honest, because again, I don't feel like it's worth doing any of this stuff if you're not telling the truth.
Right.
I struggled with, I thought everybody was my friend in the beginning. And,
Mm.
coming to realize that not everybody is here for the right reason. Not everybody is here for you, meaning for a specific person.
Right.
And I've actually retreated a few times because I'm like, nope, that's not me. I
From
don't
the
want to get involved in
community?
that. Yes. Yeah. I've actually kind of pulled back a little bit. If you looked at my page, you would see there's times where I don't post anything for weeks or even a few months, or I'm not really on here much. I think I've only done one or two of my own lives just because when I experience that negativity, it's like, no, I'm out. That's not for me.
Right.
But
Right.
I've been very, very lucky too to meet people who are genuine, who are truly here trying to help people. And I'll just say that's one of the reasons why when you asked me to come on, I said absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
you're welcome because I appreciate and I enjoy people who are genuine, who are honest and open and just wanting to help people because that's me. That's what I've always been
Right.
about. And I want to just, above all, I have to maintain my integrity and I have to protect my
Hmm.
peace.
At all costs. At all
Yes.
costs. Let's add that. Because, like you said, if you feel a need, I tell people if you need a mental break from TT, please take it. I'm still
Yeah.
going to be here when you log on in the morning in 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I'm going to keep doing it. But you have to protect your mental health and mental peace at all costs. Speaking of, I had to put my scale away yesterday.
Mm,
It was messing with me, Tara. It was, and
I
I
feel
was
that.
feeling like I thought that I was strong enough to do it every day. Like I'm like, girl, you got this. You doing all the things, but I just needed a break. I put it away. Have you experienced that? Like with the scale, with the thing on the floor?
I definitely have. And at one point, my husband hid it from me. Now,
Really?
yes. And again, that's another one of those things where I give people this advice. I did not take it myself. I wish I had. But I give people this advice from experience. I
Mm,
still, again, just going to be totally honest, I still weigh myself twice a day. And when I told you I, titrated down to 7.5 last week,
mm,
and I saw the scale go up like 2 pounds, which again is completely normal, right? That's, I mean, especially for women, completely
right.
normal. But that freaked me out to the point where I'm like, oh, nope, next dose, I'm getting right back on that 10. And I did. And now today I'm at my lowest. So
Mm,
as much as it is a physical journey, it is 1,000% equally a mental journey. And if
that
if
part.
if I if I could give anybody a piece of advice, it would be weigh once a week or even once a month, because
Hmm.
I became so hyper focused on that number on the floor that I was making myself feel like a failure if it didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Right.
And I would
Right.
find myself saying, "Oh, okay, what did I eat today or yesterday? No, I can't eat that again. I can't." And I don't. My goal from the get go was, of course, to lose weight, right? But my overall goal was to finally have a healthy relationship with food.
Right.
And and
That's the
I was
goal.
being I was being counterproductive by focusing on the scale, then going back, what'd you eat yesterday? What did you do? Did you have
Mm-hmm.
too much? Did you not have enough? And then it's
Mm-hmm.
like my mind is all over the place because I'm like, well, trying to figure out, oh my God, did I mess up? I'm like, no,
Right.
maybe I drank too much water. Maybe I didn't go to the bathroom. Maybe, maybe I'm just holding on to something, some water. So it's normal. And that's I think the hard part, especially for someone who struggled for any length of time, is figuring, I hate using the word normal, but at the same time, I use the word normal all the time because, again, my goal was I want to eat like a normal person. Everybody
Right.
eats pizza once in a while. Everybody has birthday cake. Everybody has,
Right.
drinks if they want to, if they go out. I wanted to be able to do that. So that was really that's been a balancing act for me and something I'm still learning. I'm better about it. But there are still those days where I get freaked out, and it's just going to be part of the process, I think.
It is. And we say this all the time, like the mental part of this journey is the most challenging, right?
For sure.
Because you can eat all the protein and all the Greek yogurt, all the things, but getting your mind right. And so that's why, I had to, it's not a matter of me wanting to come on here and brag and be like, oh yeah, I meditate for 10 to 20 minutes a day. I had to. Like I had to mentally like tune out and go within because like your mind is just all over the place, and I'm blessed with so many things, like so many new opportunities, but yet when I was looking at that scale, I felt defeated, and I was just like, we're not doing this. This is not good. And like you said, sometimes just taking things away, where you would go away from TikTok for a while because it wasn't healthy for your mental peace. That's what I had to do with that scale. I was just like, this is
Yeah.
not good for your mental health right now. You got to put this away. And so, and the crazier part about it is I'm starting compound next week because I'm I've been in 17 months. Well, October would be 18 months, and I'm down 64 pounds. And I was just like, listening to everybody's journey, I feel like Compound would help me get to Wonderland, get to goal, whatever that is, because I have a number in my head, but I don't know what my body's gonna look like when I get there. I may want to do more. I may want to do less. I still want to get a bone density. A DEXA scan. Like, I don't know, but I do know that I have a better chance right now, I feel like, with going to Compound and getting to those goals than I do on MJ, because I just feel like my body is just used to it.
Yeah. And that is something that happens, and why I took the breaks a few times as well, because your body does build up a tolerance. I mean, to any
Right.
medication. Sometimes
Yeah.
diabetics, if they take insulin, after so long, it has to be increased. And that's just, it's normal for your body to, find a resting place, within a medication. So,
Right.
but, but for us, once we get to 15, it's like, then what, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like, again, just from my perspective, and other people that I have told this to and they've tried it, not one person has come back to say, oh, that didn't work, or oh, that was horrible. Everyone who has
Right.
tried it and has come back to me has said, wow, that really worked. Even at 2.5, you start to feel the satiety again. The food noise is under control, and it's a nice feeling. I think it takes away some of that anxiety for us, again, of the like, oh my gosh, I'm almost at 15, or I am at 15. What do I do now?
Right.
And the switching it up. I mean, like, I've even thought about switching to semaglutide just to see. I'm in a place now where I feel like I can kind of play a little bit.
You can. Right. You
And
can.
I also like to be able to have as much information to help others. Right? If I only know tirzepatide or Manjaro, then I can only help those people. If I don't know any, people ask me about Ozempic and Wegovy. I don't know anything about them. For me personally, I'm not going to give you advice based on what I heard or what I read.
Right.
I'm going to give you advice based on what worked for me. So,
In your
you know,
experience.
yeah. And I feel like that's how it should be, right? I see people on here giving some crazy, crazy advice. I'm like, no, girl,
What's the
no,
craziest you've
please.
heard? Tell us. Tell us the
Oh
craziest thing
God.
you've heard on TT.
Well, okay, so just
One.
yesterday, I heard a lady say she was giving five things that let you know your dose is too high.
Okay.
One of the five things is, if you're cold, your dose is too high. And I'm like, lady, I've been cold since freaking day one on this medication. Okay, it's
Right.
part of the receptors that it works in the brain. It has nothing to do with what dose you're on. And that literally,
Okay.
I was listening to the first few. She got to that, and I'm like, scroll. No, I can't. Like, I can't listen to this. And or I mean, just crazy things like, you can only eat this amount of calories. You have to
Yeah.
move this amount. You have to do this. You can't do that. And I'm like, no, that's the beauty of this medication. There are none of those things.
Right.
I personally, again, if I'm being honest, I don't want to say frustrated, but that's the word that comes to mind.
Hmm.
When I do have people, ask me questions, and I always start with the same general things. I'm asking them, okay, are you doing this? Are you doing that? What are you doing for this? And they're like, well, I'm eating the same that I was before. I'm just eating less of it. And I'm like, I mean, that's great, right? To be eating less, but at some point, and again, this is what the nutritionists taught us on the clinical trial. At some point, your body is going to get used to that. And then what do you do?
Hmm.
So
Right.
there were many, all along this journey, I had to, I obviously ate more in the beginning because my body required more calories.
Right.
But at some point, I had to reduce them, reduce them by 100 or 200 calories a day, because my body got used to where I was at. And I was exercising, I was taking the medication. And it was like, okay, well, that's the only thing I can think of. Let me cut back a little bit. Let me cut this. Let me try that. You have to do that. It's just part of it. So still eating McDonald's, but only eating a double cheeseburger instead of a Big Mac. I don't feel, again, this is just my personal belief. I don't feel like you're making the best use of the medication.
Right.
And I don't feel like if you're looking for something sustainable, I don't personally believe that's it. Does it mean you can't ever have McDonald's? No, of course not. Does it mean you can't ever have treats and snacks? And no, of course not. Again, I wanted to be normal, right? And do what normal people do. But I don't feel like you're using the medication to its fullest if you're still eating like that, just a little bit less of it.
Right, because that's not what it was made for. It was
Right.
made for you to be able to enjoy life and eat like a quote unquote normal person.
Right.
But because, right. No,
But at the
agree.
same time, we're trying to get healthy, right? It's not even about getting skinny or
Not
how
at
much weight
all.
we lost. It's about being the healthiest version of ourselves. And I
Right.
don't care who you are, even if you're I have a niece who's a twig and she could eat 3 grown men under the table any day of the week, okay? But because she's
Not three of
skinny,
them.
oh yeah, because she's skinny though, that doesn't mean she's healthy.
Right.
And I want it to
Right.
be healthy. I want,
Mhm.
cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes. I wanted all of that
All
stuff
the things.
to be in check, not just my weight. And I feel like if if that worked for me and I ate McDonald's just less all the time, those other things are not going to be in check.
Not at all. Not at all. And sometimes people do think that just because you're smaller, you're healthier. I do more miles a day in less time than some of my smaller friends, like people that have never struggled with their weight. And I'm just like, girl, I don't care what size you are, you still need to get up and go for a walk, that because that's a part of self-care,
Yeah.
regardless of
If
what it is you have going on.
if that were the case, I never would have been almost 400 pounds because my father used to say to me all the time, I don't know how you don't weigh only 100 pounds. You never stop. And that is the God's honest truth. Like from the time my feet hit the floor in the morning, I
You will
don't,
go.
other than, oh yes, I don't sit down and watch TV. I don't sit down and read a book. I should do those things, but my mind is
Right.
always on go. So
Okay.
if that were the case, then I never would have been heavy to begin with.
Right. Right. I want to thank you for coming up and hanging out with us. I know you have things to do. It's Saturday morning. We're moms. We have all the things, right? I want to thank you for coming up. If you guys in the chat have any more questions, please ask before I let Tara go. Enjoy her beautiful Saturday. How were you guys okay in the storm over the last
Yeah,
couple of
we
days?
we got we got a lot of down branches and things like that in our
Oh,
area.
okay.
A lot of debris and stuff.
Yeah,
But
we have that here too.
we were very lucky. Just a few miles east or west of us were completely underwater. So we're very, very blessed. And just praying for all the people who have been really going through it these last few days, because man, it's been rough seeing some of the videos and the pictures and things like that.
It has been. The last question that was in the comments, Jenny wants to know how long were your breaks? You said 6 to 8 weeks, right? In
Yep,
between
yep.
when you
I don't
reset?
think. Yep. Other than the trial, after the trial, because I didn't have any choice, it was a year
Right.
before I could get the medication. But the resets that I did were at least 6 weeks and no more than 8 weeks, because the
Okay.
medication stays in your body for at least 3 to 4 weeks, even after you took your last dose. So I wanted a true full reset for the
Okay.
medication to be out of my body and to just start, back at the beginning.
Okay. Again, I want to thank you. If you're not already following Tackling Tara down 213 pounds, please give her a follow. I will be sending you some messages just because I just love your story, and I sometimes struggle, and I feel like I know that you would be there to help me answer
Listen,
any questions in between. You know,
absolutely. Anybody that wants to message me, please feel free to. That's why I'm here. Okay? I don't do TikTok shop. I don't care about any of that crap. Um, I came here because I wanted to help people. I wanted to share my story, and that to me, that's part of why God led me to to the trial, to have the success that I've had. Again, I believe He wanted me to be healthy too, but at the same time, He's given me so many outlets and opportunities to inspire and share with others. And for me, that's what it's been about. So message me anytime.
absolutely.
I'm happy to help. And I thoroughly appreciate, like, I can't believe it's been over an hour already. Like,
I know,
I'm like,
right?
shoot, we just got on. We're done. But thank you so much for
Right.
having me.
Yes. You're welcome. I want to officially tell you thank you, and you are officially a part of Team TMI.
Thank you.
They're in here, yes. But thank you, and feel free because we're here Monday through Friday and Saturdays. Monday through Friday, anyway. We start anywhere between 6 to 6:30 because sometimes Lady Puff will be over and she'll be lifting weights. You may find Coco at the gym or me over here walking or on the elliptical. So feel free to pop in at any time.
Will do. Thank you so much. And everybody have a blessed and beautiful weekend.
You're welcome. Thanks again, Tara. Have a great
Thank you.
weekend.
You too. Bye bye.